Good morning, Minister, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first Finance Isle of Man Industry event of 2024. I'm Sue Preskey, Chair of Finance Isle of Man, and I'm honoured today to be your moderator for what I believe will be an insightful day of discussions and valuable exchanges of ideas. Before we commence our agenda, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to every one of you. Your presence here today is a statement of and a testament of your commitment to the growth and prosperity of the financial and professional services sector in the Isle of Man. So let me just briefly explain what will be happening today and what the agenda will be. First of all, we will kick-start the day with an opening address from Minister for Enterprise, Tim Johnston, MHK. His insights will set the stage for our discussions ahead. Thank you, Minister. Then we have CEO of Finance Isle of Man, Michael Crowe, who will reflect on the achievements of 2023 and importantly highlighting the exciting initiatives in store for the upcoming year. He will provide a comprehensive overview of the agency's priorities for 2024. There will be an interactive Slido. Michael will introduce that later, so please do feel free to answer any questions and we'll filter them through and respond. Following Michael's address, we'll hear from Ian Spence, Head of AML CFT at the Isle of Man FSA, Financial Services Authority. Ian will delve into the FSA's annual report, which has been published, share insights from the industry surveys, and outline the authority's action plan for 2024. Then Shannon Reid and Kate Sims from the AML CFT Policy Office will shed light on the ongoing efforts we're making to enhance the island's AML, CFT, CPF framework and prepare for the next Moneyval mutual evaluation, which is pending in the next couple of years. We will conclude this section with a Q&A session featuring Michael Crowe, Ian Spence, Shannon Reid and Kate Sims. You're then delighted to know that we will be having a short 20-minute break at 10:25-ish for some refreshments. The second part of today's events will be dedicated to skills. As we know, skills and resource are one of the key challenges that we face in our sector, and it's something that we have to address. So we're delighted that Peter Reid, Chair of the Isle of Man Skills Board, will provide an update on Ireland's skills strategy with a focus on the financial and professional services sector. Subsequently, we're going to engage in a panel event and discussion. Peter Reid and Finance Isle of Man board members, thank you, Jill Marples, Robert Catto, and they will be exploring the evolving landscape of skills developing in our industry. So, without further ado, let us begin our journey of exploration and collaboration. May I invite Mr. Tim Johnston, MHK, to provide the opening address. Mr. Johnston, can I invite you to the stage? Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully my voice is going to survive this. I might be stopping and coughing and spluttering every now and then, so forgive me for that if I do. So it is a real pleasure to be here this morning. The Isle of Man's finance sector has long been the bedrock of our economy, accounting for a quarter of overall jobs in the island and contributing 48% to our GDP, of which I would like to highlight that insurance alone makes up 22.4%. To put it simply, our finance sector is extremely important to the island's economy. It is a key contributor to government income, which drives the island's economy, government spending, and consumer confidence. However, the global financial landscape is ever evolving, marked by rapid technological advancements and shifting economic models. In the face of this, our island's robust finance industry continues to rise to the challenge. And time again, your businesses innovate in step with these changes. Our long-term economic strategy acknowledges that the need to be dynamic and makes clear that proactive measures are required to ensure our entire economy continues not only to survive in the face of global economic shifts, but continues to thrive. On that note, I feel it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge two significant matters this morning: Moneyval and beneficial ownership. Across government, we are continuing to invest in anti-money laundering expertise to help prepare for the next Moneyval inspection. This government is taking clear action to strengthen our collective desire to prevent and prosecute financial crime, and protect our nation's international reputation, whilst importantly also ensuring we maintain the right environment for further economic growth and wealth creation. I know many of you here today are also investing in strengthening and improving your own compliance and intelligence functions in an ongoing need to always try to be one step ahead of bad actors who seek to use our island for their own gains. We are also alive to the fact that beneficial ownership will be a topic which is at the forefront of many of your thoughts. Whilst intense negotiations have been taking place in recent months, the Chief Minister has been working closely with colleagues in Jersey and Guernsey to confirm our intent to respect the EU court ruling and is determined to protect our island's proposition and prosperity. We have, together with Jersey and Guernsey, clearly said that we will no longer prepare for a public register. In making this commitment, there are further steps we must take, opening up to obliged entities and improving the verification approach, as well as preparing for legitimate interested parties by reviewing international norms. We are not unique as an island to be in this position, which requires us to respond to matters which have the potential to affect our future. However, what makes us strong as an island and economy is the way we work together, government and industry, all of you in this room today, to think together, to act together. And all the time, whilst we respond to international matters, continuing to promote your sectors, to develop new products for them, and to feed directly on policy development. This is where Finance Isle of Man comes into play. Finance Isle of Man is your agency, and we're here to ensure this island remains a place where businesses across the financial and professional services sector, services landscape, have the tools and a platform you need to succeed. Finance Isle of Man has recently published its 2024 programme, aligned to the economic strategy's ambitions to further grow our working population, create and fill new jobs, continue to support growth in GDP, and new government revenues to invest back into the island, alongside a doubling down on our ESG agenda, including renewable energy security for our island in the years to come. Finance Isle of Man's 2024 programme acts as a roadmap for the next year, as they set out to work across industry and government to catalyse growth, foster innovation, and secure the sector's future. This culminates as a suite of initiatives which capitalise on our strengths and addresses the challenges faced by your businesses. Key accelerators have been identified, notably the pursuit of opportunities in sustainable finance and the cross-agency initiative, the Innovation Challenge. These endeavours are not just milestones to achieve, but are long-term initiatives which we will deliver on our path to a resilient and dynamic financial ecosystem. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Finance Isle of Man board, who forgo their time each month to collectively help us drive forward our ambitions across the financial and professional service sector and support our goals. Your work is very much appreciated. Our board members make decisions on where to invest public funds to protect, sustain, and to grow our industries further. That's what our formation as a public-private partnership is all about. Letting industry representation lead the way and tell us how government can support growth and ignite innovation. I will shortly hand over to Michael Crowe, Chief Executive of Finance Isle of Man, for an overview of the work which is currently being undertaken by the Finance Agency. But before I do, I want to finish by saying that your challenges are our challenges, and by working together, your successes are our successes. And with a spirit of collaboration, I am confident that together we can create a more secure, vibrant and sustainable future for our economy and for our island. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Sue. Really great to see you all here today. The event was sold out and had a waiting list. As Sue said, this is the first of our events of this type for this year, but hopefully more to come. I hope you enjoy the morning. For my section now, I'm going to be essentially walking through some of the key elements that are in the programme document, which hopefully you picked up on your way in. I'm going to highlight how our work contributes to the overarching economic strategy. I'm going to spend quite a bit of time talking about some of our key strategic projects for the year, and also some analysis of each of our 6 primary sectors. Before I hand over to Ian and then to Kate and Shannon for their parts. So, yep, and then looking forward to the panel after that. Sue mentioned Slido. There is a link on the agenda. By all means, please use that. By all means, please use the link on the agenda for Slido. We'll use that for the panel discussion, well, the 2 panel discussions, and then we'll also use. We'll also have the Finance Isle of Man team are here. Happy to chat in the break or after the event, but I think there's always an open door as well. If anybody wants to discuss any aspect of our work at any time, just let us know, and we'd be very happy to meet you. So I'll now move on to the first section here, which is I hope you can read that at the back. It's certainly in the programme document. This pyramid that we have here on the right-hand side is a conceptual framework that we use, which illustrates our approach to promoting and supporting the sector, aligning with the broader goals and initiatives of the overall government economic strategy. At the bottom of the pyramid, I'll work from the bottom up. At the bottom of the pyramid, we have our core elements of business development, marketing, and now international overseas representation. That's a new area for us, as last month we welcomed our first member of staff who's based in South Africa, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. That activity supports our 6 core sectors: banking, fiduciaries, insurance, pensions, professional services and funds. As the Minister said, that's essentially the cornerstone of the economy and roughly half our GDP. On top of that, we have some cross-cutting projects, which I'm going to go through in some detail, including fintech, skills, and the important aspect, again, which the Minister mentioned and is reflected with Ian and with Kate and Shannon here today, our role in providing industry input and perspective on any regulatory, legislative, and policy developments affecting our sector. Above there, we pursue new areas and opportunities, including InsurTech, employee benefits, and the Innovation Hub. And then at the top, we have areas of future focus, our Innovation Challenge, which we're very proud of, and the Sustainable Finance Project, which is going to be new for 2024, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. The key to delivery of all of this is our relationship with our stakeholders, with you. Our amazingly diverse sector, and together with professional societies and trade bodies, is key to what we do. All our work is coordinated with them and through our board in collaboration with all of you. Next slide. Oh yes, as has been said already, yeah, roughly 48% of GDP. There's new GDP figures coming out imminently, so it'll be interesting to see how that's changed. And you can see employment continues to grow steadily, which is also great to see. We've actually seen a reduction in job vacancies right towards the end of last year, and when the data's published, we're hoping to see that mirrored in further growth in employment to the end of 2023. I've just picked out here a couple of achievements, a couple of highlights for particularly for the end of last year. 2023 was a very busy year for us. So a couple of the highlights on there. We supported a new Class 8 license, new financial services licenses. That's it's something we don't see perhaps as frequently as we would like to, but we helped support AstroPay last year, and I know John's in the room here today. And we're hoping, we're working with some more license applicants during 2024. We've got employee benefits. Our employee benefits cluster has grown to 22 members, 22 member businesses, which is great to see. I'll cover that in some detail later in terms of ongoing work. And also the successful marketing campaign that's currently being undertaken with those businesses. We've got our local outreach program. We've got a new, last year we welcomed Stephen and Nick, our new business development managers, who principally have led during the second half of last year, led on a comprehensive local engagement program, which hopefully is great to see. They've gathered some really interesting feedback and insights, and again, the key aim for us is to make sure that our initiatives align with the aspirations and expectations of our community. So that is great to see. InsurTech, we've got the InsurTech Accelerator Programme and the FinTech Challenge mentioned there. Two amazing events during 2023, the finale days for both of those, with tech businesses and different businesses from around the world coming to essentially pitch to Manx stakeholder community, which is fantastic. One of our InsurTech cohort is now working with the FSA, RegSearch, and I know, particularly in that project, that there's a lot of ongoing activity with businesses who are actually represented in the room today in terms of some future opportunities that's going to come out of that. And the last point on there is probably awards. At the International Investment Awards towards the end of 2023, we were proud to be named the Best International Financial Services Centre, and also our InsurTech programme won an award for excellence in innovation within IFCs. Obviously great to see, but actually I think possibly more importantly is that 9 Manx businesses also won awards, which is a testament to our collective experience and the reputation, the hard-earned reputation that we have here on the Isle of Man. So I'm now going to move on to cover some of our interesting projects for 2024. Skills. Yeah, skills. One of our primary focuses has always been and continues to be skills and development initiatives around that area. As I mentioned, we have seen a reduction in vacancies towards the end of last year, which is great to see. And I'm hoping that that's mirrored in employment stats for the end of 2023. But skills remains one of the biggest, if not the biggest, challenges facing many of our companies, our businesses. Looking forward, our goal for 2024 is to further bolster the workforce. In the programme, we've got an aspirational target of 200 additional jobs within our sector. It is ambitious, but it reflects our commitment to fostering growth and helping you and helping create new opportunities and driving prosperity across the Isle of Man. So in terms of work we do locally, to help equip our workforce with necessary skills and expertise, we have done quite a bit in 2023 and continue in 2024 with supporting delivery of specialised training courses, which is always positive. And an example of that, in collaboration with UCM, the University College of Man, the Compliance Association and the FSA, there's now an accredited compliance element within the Business Administration Level 4 course up at the college. Which has been great to see. The college were very open and amenable to changing syllabus to meet our needs. So that is great to empower typically younger people on the Isle of Man to receive that training in compliance matters at an early stage of their career and hopefully transition into jobs in that world. We also recognise the importance of apprenticeships in terms of nurturing talent and bridging skills gaps. We're pleased to support the apprenticeship programme that was designed by the London Institute of Banking and Finance, but that's now been expanded to cover pretty much all of our sector. So we're working with them and with the Department for Education in terms of getting that launched, getting that off the ground. We're also actively supporting Treasury's work placement scheme. Some of you may have seen we sent a cascade email out about that last week. That's also something which we're keen to support, and we've got businesses already engaged in that to help offer placements for relevant individuals. So through those efforts and initiatives, we're confident that we're able to work locally to help nurture a skilled workforce and drive innovation and growth there. Obviously, our greatest asset are people here on the Isle of Man. However, it's still clear that we need to attract significant numbers of new people into our sector. Our vacancies are typically for more experienced job roles and positions. So it's clear that we need to work hard on recruitment and to bring people to the island. So we have been working together with a group of businesses actually to help frame a campaign with our colleagues in Locate Isle of Man. And thank you. I think quite a few businesses are represented here in the room. but we had over 30, it was 33 businesses involved in workshops to help frame a campaign, define the roles, the target audience, the gaps and specific key roles that we wanted to focus on. The resulting campaign has now started to roll out, and primarily in the UK, in the British Isles. The campaign aims to raise awareness of the Isle of Man as a wonderful place to live and work. Our overarching theme is "There's no better place." A key element of this is to drive people to our talent portal. So I'd encourage all of you, if your business is, if skills are an issue and you're looking for new staff, please engage with the talent portal, and any of our team would be more than happy to help you with that. There's a lot of traffic in the first 10 days of the campaign. We've had 88 people from the register, of which 58 were from the UK, where the campaign is aimed, and 30 were from South Africa, where we haven't actually promoted it at all, but so it's obviously still keen there. Now, if this works well, when I click this clicker, you'll have a break from my voice for a couple of minutes, and I've got one of our videos as part of the campaign. Fingers crossed, Brad.
Why relocate to the Isle of Man for your next career move in the finance industry?
How about a morning sunrise like this on your morning commute? There's no better place to start your new chapter.
Everyone here is so welcoming. Walking to work often involves friendly exchanges in the street. There's no better place to join a community that cares.
Here on the Isle of Man, your aspirations take root and thrive. Join us in our vibrant hub, where your professional development is our priority. There's no better place to further your career.
The Isle of Man's financial sector is diverse and trusted by a global client base, which brings opportunities for varied and exciting work. There's no better place to explore new avenues.
Everything is closer when living on a small island. Your commute to work is not only beautiful, it's short, meaning you have more time to enjoy your hobbies, meet friends, and spend quality time with loved ones. There's no better place to find your balance.
The Isle of Man is the perfect place to bring up your family. With a low crime rate, beautiful scenery, plenty of varied family-centered activities, there's no better place to maximize your downtime. Relocate to the Isle of Man. There's no better place to live, work, and thrive. Why not come and see for yourself?
I hope you like that. That was launched about 10 days ago. I'm really pleased with that. It's getting some good traction. And thanks also for the businesses who staff volunteered to be case studies as part of the campaign. We're actually keen to do more too. So if anybody does want to volunteer or has somebody in the business who would make a good case study, then please do get in touch, because essentially the more the merrier for that. We're going to do as much as we can over the next 2 months in terms of promoting those kind of stories. So I'll now move on to my next slide. Regulatory matters, particularly relevant with Ian, Shannon and Kate here today. Looking more with an international focus, Finance Isle of Man continues to play a vital role in policy discussions at the highest level of government. We're actively engaged on a number of fronts. We're coordinating an industry and government working group on insolvency and related matters. We look forward to seeing a draft bill later this year, particularly working with our colleagues in the Treasury. Also in preparation for Money Val, which is probably going to be 2026 or 27. We've got a key role in terms of industry engagement and making sure that we're engaged on your behalf. Kate and Shannon will be talking about that in much more detail shortly. Also with international taxation developments such as Pillar 2, and I see Mr. Parsons here in the room, we're actively engaged in ensuring that we have a coordinated industry view and response on policy questions coming out of those areas. That's probably going to be quite a bit of activity there during beneficial ownership. The Minister mentioned as well. Yeah, we're very heavily involved in that and making sure that the policy decisions that we make from the Isle of government make are informed by the needs of and views of industry. Sustainable finance, that's a new project for us this year. I think it's very relevant and probably covers a number of different areas in terms of the Isle of Man's overall economic strategy. I think it's fair to say governments and organisations around the world have identified sustainable finance as a vital mechanism for meeting environmental, social and governance targets. And broadly, our view of this, sustainable finance is the process of taking ESG considerations into account when making investment decisions in the financial sector, leading to more long-term investment in sustainable economic activity and projects. I think we've got two strands here. It includes financing what is both environmentally friendly today, green finance, and also what's transitioning to environmentally friendly performance over time, so transition finance. Key practical aspects of us, which I think really chime well and sit well on the Isle of Man, is the key elements of that are innovation, investment, regulation and governance, and which I think is somewhere we've proved that we can deliver previously, and I think we can set our attention to that again. Market analysts unanimously project a huge global flow of capital into sustainable finance products. The Isle of Man and our and businesses here and consumers could be significant beneficiaries of that opportunity. Conversely, if the Isle of Man does not embrace sustainable finance, then our financial services businesses could see outflows into jurisdictions who take another view. So, in terms of our current activity in that area, we're going to be coming to the Economic Strategy Board later, or going to the Economic Strategy Board later this month, with a proposal for a significant 3-year project in this area, working with industry and across government to deliver a suitable regulatory framework in that area, and also support businesses create a new product suite to take advantage of these opportunities. Fintech. Fintech is fintech and insurtech are significant areas of interest for us, and continue to be so. On the slide there, we reference the Innovation Challenge and the Innovation Hub. The Innovation Challenge is a key project for 2024. It was started last year. We'll continue to work with colleagues in other agencies. Last year was with the FSA and with Digital Isle of Man, and supported by Deloitte to deliver the first Innovation Challenge. This year, we're going to be working also with Business Isle of Man, and we already have 51, well, when I wrote this 51, I think there's more actually now, there's 54 entrants for the Innovation Challenge. We're really looking forward to seeing that play out, and seeing the interaction with those applicants, and see the winners announced at the event later this year. This is a strategic initiative to help shape the island's fintech landscape and preparing us to navigate the complexities of this space in coming years. The Innovation Hub, was established at the end of last year. This is working with our partners at the Financial Services Authority and Digital Isle of Man, and this is a commitment on our behalf to provide a clear path for emerging fintech ventures and to introduce them to the Isle of Man, where we combine a business, government and regulatory perspective in a conversation with businesses to understand their propositions and how we on the Isle of Man would best support them from a multitude of areas. InsurTech. I've mentioned InsurTech already, and you've probably heard me and probably Simon Pickering in particular talk about InsurTech before. InsurTech Isle of Man the project continues, a really strong collaboration between us, the government, the regulator and our insurance community, supporting entrepreneurs at the forefront of that field. I've mentioned already the Accelerator Programme, which concluded in January 23. Many of that cohort of businesses are still actively engaged on the Isle of Man, tailoring solutions with life insurance companies, and one is already working, providing services and working with the FSA. The InsurTech project is like many of our projects, driven by a cross-industry working group, and they're currently looking at the next phases of work. So that could include various new opportunities for the Isle of Man, current discussions around parametric insurance, specific action around dormant enforced policies, but also perhaps interestingly, and we're not we're now looking actually and working with other jurisdictions on potentially hosting an international conference on this subject. So hopefully more to report on that as the year develops. Employee benefits. I mentioned it as part of our look back to 2023, the successful launch of the new cluster, the new subsector really on the Isle of Man. This project really builds on the Isle of Man's enviable reputation as a world leader within the international pension space. Certainly whenever I travel or go to conferences in the UK or further afield, people are, this sits really well, and people are always fascinated about the pension offer and the fact that we are so strong in this area. During 2024, the cluster will continue to work in collaboration, and the cluster has also formed a new branch of the International Employee Benefits Association, and we're promoting the Isle of Man as a centre of excellence in this space. Just thinking about countries beginning with I, we've got more businesses represented here and more people working in this sector than Italy. So that probably is a reflection of the strength of our sector here in terms of retirement benefits and employee benefits on the Isle of Man. Last year, the cluster commissioned and published a report based on a YouGov survey that was that surveyed over 2,000 UK expats in particular. Fascinating and revealing insights which will help reinforce what we're doing with employee benefits, and the international digital marketing campaign that was launched last year. Now, Dina, these numbers are probably out of date already, but I think we had a target of 20,000 impressions on the site. We were already 110,000, and 12.6 million impressions, and 110,000 downloads. So we've done done very well with that. And equally important for us, the stakeholders and the members of the cluster continue with a lot of energy and enthusiasm to drive that project forward, seeing some real benefits out of that. I'm now going to spend a little bit of time looking at some of the key targets, our KPIs in each of our 6 core sectors. Don't worry, I'm not going to read them all. I'll pick out a couple of key points in each area. Firstly, on insurance, as the Minister said, our largest sector in terms of GDP. Obviously, collective wealth and experience, particularly in international markets. The key project here for us this year is obviously InsurTech, as I mentioned a few moments ago. But in addition to that, and alongside that, the sector has identified some opportunities, particularly around bond products into the UK. So there'll be a campaign launching actually within the next couple of weeks, particularly into the UK on the specific insurance products that we can deliver from the Isle of Man. So with the aim for continued growth in that sector. The fiduciary industry, obviously well established, innovative, and particularly outward facing. So much of our work in the UK and further afield is focused on either insurance or the wealth management fiduciary picture more broadly. And we continue to work with businesses across the sectors to promote the Isle of Man as an area of excellence, an international financial services centre of excellence. Probably more of a focus of our international event programme is to support this sector. All of our events are selected with and supported by industry, and very often co-sponsored too, which is great to see. And in fact, we're seeing more businesses keen to repeat sponsorships with us, which I think which is great to see. And if anybody is interested in either you're suggesting events that you think the Isle of Man should be more present in or should sponsor, then please let me know, and we'd be more than happy to look at those. We've also recently launched a digital campaign, again targeting quite a few of our key jurisdictions. We're always on the lookout for interesting thought leadership pieces. So here's an ask from me is, if anybody has any ideas which for a piece of that type that would exemplify the breadth of skills and that we have here on the Isle of Man, please do not hesitate to contact any member of the team. We'd be more than happy to chat to you about that. I'll talk about more about events at the end of this section. Banking, obviously another significant employer on the Isle of Man. Banking is one of the core elements of our offer, both domestically but obviously principally internationally. Our relationship there is strong, and we work closely with the banking community to help maintain and enhance their contribution and their significant tax contribution to the Exchequer in the Isle of Man. Pillar 2 is particularly relevant here, as is our focus on skills and recruitment. Professional services, well, I think some of you know my background. I might be a little bit biased about that one. I've mentioned work about insolvency legislation and regulation. Our other key areas to support this area are around training and apprenticeships. This obviously sector, this and banking to an extent, obviously benefits from other business flows into the Isle of Man. So one thing we do with our stakeholders in this area is make sure we're aligned and they're aligned with some of our other international outreach, so we're all on the same page. Pensions. I mentioned when I travel, people are always surprised that the Isle of Man's a world leader in the pension space. We really have a fantastic... Oh, my lord, it's Mr. Pickering. There we go. Simon, you got naming lights. Well done. Our key work here is obviously the Employee Benefits Project, but we're consistently engaged with our sector to make sure we're well placed to take advantage of opportunities to continue to reinforce our reputation and grow in this area. And I think last but by no means least, our Funds and Wealth community, working with the Funds and Wealth Association to help revamp their promotional material in that area, but are also continuing to work on potential developments, particularly around the opportunity for us to perhaps create new fund types and styles of product available in that area. And I think the Sustainable Finance project is going to be perhaps quite interesting, and see how that, well, that's obviously going to have impact in all of our key areas. But I think the fund space, that might be very interesting to see what we can create, what we can deliver there. So I'm going to conclude my section, you'll be pleased to know, by looking at some of our plans for international engagement in the coming year. So the focus here is to continue to raise our profile, reinforce our profile, and support Manx businesses with in key jurisdictions and key areas that you're engaged with. So we also aim to build our own connections in key locations, to showcase the Isle of Man as a place to do business, so support potential inward investment. And of course, in all times, is to showcase, using some of the video assets and other things we do, the fact that the Isle of Man is a great place to live and work, and hopefully contribute to supporting immigration to the island. When we do events, all of our event program is built in conjunction with industry. There tend to be two broad types: a combination of networking events and also trade conferences, where we get the opportunity to sponsor and take advantage of speaking opportunities. All of that is supported by international campaign activity. I've mentioned the IFC campaign, the bond campaign, and the employee benefits campaign, which are active at the moment. And again, thank you to all the businesses that support that. But my final slide is really just to highlight some of the news and some of the activity we have around South Africa. Particularly attractive and active location for the Isle of Man. We've got a long history of working in the region. Many Manx businesses have offices and contacts in South Africa. Many great South African brands and businesses have got established presence here. We now have our first dedicated business development representative in South Africa. Cecilia is based in Johannesburg. She took up the role in January. She will primarily be working to build the relationship between the two jurisdictions and raise the profile in key areas and networks within the Isle of Man. She's very well placed to do this, because she spent the last 7 years as the Vice President for International Networks at the British Chamber of Business in South Africa. So we're really pleased to have secured Cecilia helping us in that jurisdiction. We also continue to support what is now more than 12 local businesses who have 6 monthly roadshow visits to South Africa, known as the Indaba. We're committed to support them again, 2 roadshows in South Africa this year. And we also work with the South African Chamber of Commerce, in particular the UK branch of the South African Chamber of Commerce. We started really ramping that up last year to reinforce our reputation and our position with that group. So that's it from me. A whistle-stop tour of our programme. As I said, most of what I've said is included within the document. Any of the team would be more than happy to chat and engage about any aspect of what we're doing, what we're planning for this year. We've got a panel discussion before the break where I'd be very happy to take any questions. But I thank you very much for your attention this morning, and I'll hand over to Ian. Thank you. Thank you.
Morning all. Hope you're well. I'm just going to set a timer. Those of you that know me know that if I don't set a timer, we'll still be here at lunchtime and I won't have finished yet. So just going to start that. That's what that's doing. Anyway, morning. First of all, apologies from Bettina Roth, the Chief Exec of the FSA. She's off island at the moment with colleagues from the FIU, visiting Latvia, because Latvia made a lot of progress in terms of the FIU and AML-CFT, and they're also the first volunteers for the next round of money val checks. So we're trying to find out what they've been up to see what we can nick in terms of good practice, and what they have a high level of confidence about what they're doing. So we're hoping we'll get some good things from there. Oh, that's interesting. It's gone right to the end. This could be exciting. So you got my ugly mug, and then right to the end of the presentation. So I'm not quite sure what we've done with that. Is there something I'm doing?
No, it looks all right. Is this where you wanted to start? Annual report?
That's me. Yeah, we're there now. Right. Don't go to the end of the presentation. Go to the start of it, and that's always good. Quick run through what we've done in 2023. Big, ambitious program of transformational change. Yeah, we've been through quite a big series of changes internally, both on the supervision side and the regulatory side, and structurally we've changed the entire supervisory structure within the organisation. The coming year, we'll be trying to embed that a bit more. Yeah? So the supervisory divisions are now, rather than being industry-based, more impact-based on the prudential side. So banking and insurance, big balance sheet, big prudential risk, looked after by one division. High, medium impact, other than banking and insurance, looked after by a second division. And the smaller impact, not less important, but smaller impact ones, so the ones who don't have lots of employees, the ones who don't have huge balance sheet risk, are looked after by a portfolio division. And they look after all of the prudential and the regulatory checks we do, other than anti-money laundering and countering the finance of terrorism, because that's my division, and we do that for all of the businesses that we have. So that also includes designated non-financial businesses. We've got them because they're only looked after for AML-CFT. So 4 supervisory divisions looking after things in a slightly different structure to the way we did in 2022. So we'll continue working on that in 2024, particularly in the portfolio supervision area, because that's a new way of working, less contact, less face-to-face, less interference in the business. So we have to learn how to do that remote, one-to-many type work better, and we will build in the understanding of what that looks like with those businesses going through the year. The whole point of that restructuring was to try and focus a finite resource into the areas where we have kind of the biggest bang for our buck, yeah, on our regulatory objectives. Regulatory objectives, there are only 3 for us. Consumer protection, helping to reduce the risk of financial crime, and helping through strong regulation to show that the island is a good place to do business. Yeah? There is a strong financial centre where you can trust the businesses, where you can trust the regulators, where you can trust the legislation. All of that, big foundation stuff, started last year. We published our annual report, November time, and we'll get onto that in a little bit. We also carried out an industry survey. Now, the dangers of industry surveys are you generally don't expect to get fabulously good news in an industry survey, partly because some respondents tend to be quite shy, except for the ones who've really got something to say. So we did it, we take it on the chin, and there's some real lessons for us to learn in there. We've published both some findings from the industry report and a 5-point action plan. And the 5-point action plan, the things we promised that we're working on, looking at inspections and how we carry out the inspections and the feedback we get from the inspections we do, There's always ongoing work in terms of continuous improvement. We learned some of the lessons from how we carried out the foreign PEP inspection, the AML-CFT one. We've adapted some of those lessons already into how we do things. But we're also looking more widely at how the inspection process, procedures, and even the reports are done, because there are some material concerns coming out from industry that we need to take on board. Transparency. Well, I think we're quite open with what we do. You know, most of the stuff that we do and we publish on our website is really just pushing out information. We try not to keep secrets if we can. We tend to consult a lot more than perhaps I'm used to in other organisations. We are looking to work more closely with lots of other agencies. Yeah? But the website's full of material. People are surprised. When I work internationally, people are surprised at just how much information we actually put onto our site and the level of contact we have with business versus how they behave. So we are a bit more open, I think, than other ones. But transparency and trying to get a vision of what we're trying to achieve out there is really what we're doing this year. Communications outreach are part of that. So more information going out, more reaching out to others to work together, find out what they do, either learn lessons from them or take the concerns from them. Big drive on that in 2024. People strategy, we've changed our performance management system in the past year. Next year will be the first full year of that performance appraisal system coming in. Recruitment's been a really big thing for us this year, particularly in the AML-CFT side. And I know we'll get into skills later, but we've done really well this year at recruiting people, either very experienced people at the top end, or people with no experience whatsoever at the bottom. And we've committed to develop them through and build their experience and their skills. Scott Quayle, as our operations manager, came from KPMG, talks about the 4 Bs on skills. I'll try and do them properly. You either buy people in, you recruit them, or you bot the work. It's a terrible expression. In other words, you automate the low-level work. Yeah. You borrow people, second them in, or you build them. That says 4 Bs. And we've got a range of that happening inside the organisation with our people. Innovation. Michael covered quite a few of the things we're involved in. FinTech, InsurTech, the sandbox for new businesses, our own innovation internally. So I won't spend too much time on that. But the annual report, in turn, has got our strategic priorities set out. Those are the... Sorry, can we click on? Well, that's gone to the end again. It's not me this time. It's headed key strategic priorities. Yeah, got it. These are the 5 that we've published in our annual report, and these are the 5 strategic priorities that we're going to be taking forward. Funding mechanism. There is a plan on the island for the FSA to become more predominantly industry funded. That means charging more in fees directly to businesses and reducing the amount of money that the Treasury funds us with. So it doesn't increase the overall funding, so we don't get any more money out of it. It's just a change in where that money comes from. And we're already on a 3-year glide path to take more money in fees and receive less money from the Treasury. But even that total amount doesn't fund everything that the FSA does. So the Treasury and the FSA have got a lot of work to do 2026 and beyond to work out where that funding model goes. Supervisory methodology, I've kind of covered that already. Data management and analytics. Our new data warehouse is up and running. We have an Atlas system, which is our case management system. We are working, well, I say we, I'm not working, but the techies are working on revamping all of the returns that we have to make them easier to fit into that data warehouse. And the data warehouse itself has got some auto-validation and checks built into it to make it easier to get the right information and more difficult to get the wrong information, if that makes it simple enough. We've also looked at cybersecurity and had a cybersecurity audit and what goes on in terms of banking resolution and the compensation schemes. There's quite a lot of work in there in the crisis management area. AML-CFT, I'll cover a bit of that later. There's lots in that area. And legislative change, I have a little list here. I'll do it very quickly. The amendment bills, aligning POCA and the AML-CFT code, Retirement Benefit Schemes Act, the FSA Miscellaneous Amendment Bill, and the AML-CFT travel rule are all bits and pieces of legislation that we're actively involved in at the moment. Even though there might not be directly our legislation, clearly we have a say in what they're doing. Oh, good. Collaboration is the theme of the day, I think we'll find. We say it time and time again, and we genuinely mean it, yeah? We can't isolate ourselves as the regulator from the world outside. Yeah? Isle of Man Finance can't isolate itself from the world outside. The Gambling Commission can't do it. We all have to work together. If we don't understand what's going on and what the concerns are, we will never resolve them. We'll never move forward. If we don't take false perceptions on and change them, we'll never move forward. So we are very keen and very, very open to collaboration. Bettina's not here today, and I did say she apologises. She does dozens of events and meetings every year, yeah, across industry, with businesses, with groups. Yeah. She's far more active than a lot of CEOs that I've seen in my time of actually going out to talk to people, and she's more than happy to do it. Yeah. We're quite open. If you want to come and talk to us, to set up a meeting, come and see us at the FSA. We're not monsters. You can come and talk to us about anything you like. Yeah. We have inboxes across the organisation. If you want to send stuff by email rather than come in personally, we will deal with them all. We don't miss them all. Travel rules, one I'll mention in particular. So the travel rule, for those of you who are not AML techies like me, is the equivalent of the wire transfer regulations for the movement of money, yeah, between businesses. We're bringing the travel rule for VASPs, for crypto, and it's a parallel piece of legislation, but we've worked with an industry group, the CVC group. We've worked extensively with them to understand where the law is just impossible to do, where we need to tweak it, how we need to write it in order for it to be practical, in other words, deliverable by businesses before we go to the bill. So quite a lot of background work on that to try and make sure that what we end up with is something we can all use. Outside of the Isle of Man, we've got lots of organisations that we work with. Big work this year upcoming with the AICP, which is the Island Compliance Professionals Group. Number of ideas floating about, two of which I think we're definitely going to deliver. One on introduced business, because that's an area of concern that's been raised with us about how the code applies to introduced business. And the other one is the compliance framework, the role and responsibilities of compliance staff and compliance officers. Because again, some concerns raised with us about the pressure on compliance teams and compliance staff. Now, some of those pressures are requirements. Yeah? The code requires things to be done. And some of the pressures are that pressure of the requirements there. And some of those pressures are because we are carrying out more inspections. And some of that pressure is because there's a squeeze inside the business, perhaps not getting the level of support that compliance staff feel they need, which is feedback that we get from some of them. So that's an area we need to work our way through, and we'll do some stuff on that. The sessions themselves will be interactive, they'll be organised, and there'll be Q&A sessions with the LCP groups. We've also got a plan to have at least one event with CEOs and directors, and Bettina's going to put out an invitation for that. And again, that's because we're getting feedback that the message is not getting to the CEOs in some businesses. Yeah? Similarly, we've had feedback that some of the messages doesn't get to the lower levels of staff in there. The CEO makes it just one option for us to actually have meetings with them and actually talk about where the authority is, what we're trying to achieve, how we do it and why we do it. Yeah? But we'll be doing that with multiple levels and multiple groups. If you have ideas for what we should be talking about or the types of groups that we should be organising, please let us know. Yeah? Because it's an open house. We're not fixing it down to particular groups at the moment. We'll try and spread the good news out. The contents of those meetings will be shared online as far as we can. I'm going quickly now. Same with the international stuff. So far in the last month, I've dealt with Cyprus, the team have dealt with the West Balkans, Bettina's in Latvia this week. South African Authority have been over here recently. We're reaching out to UK and Ireland again. And obviously, Quad Island is almost start. Once Guernsey's been through its money vault, they're a bit busy at the moment. Jersey, by the way, very confident what they've got, but they're still recovering from the shock of money vault. We've published some information on the GIFCAS stuff. This is good news. GIFCAS, the Group of International Financial Centre Supervisors, carry out an extensive AML CFT check on the FSA and the industry. And we've come out with probably the highest rating we've seen from a GIFCAS inspection. The one area that didn't get the absolutely top rating related to smaller TCSPs where there's no requirement to have audited accounts. And we're working to resolve that. So other than that, we've actually hit the high spots on all of that. Helps us with evidence, helps us sell the message that we are a well-regulated country. As I said earlier, if we can find some good ideas abroad, we will steal them, because that's how we work. Remediation enforcement. A lot of myths out there about this area. Yeah? But if you look on our site, you'll see how we do things. Yeah? You'll see how the supervision's done. You'll see how the governance post-inspection is done. You will see our enforcement decision-making process, all published, all transparent. And we failed, I think is the answer. I will try to go faster. So just quickly on that. The authority, yeah, is there to encourage compliance. Yeah? And we do it in many, many ways. We provide information, we provide guidance. We've done 23 different bits of guidance since 2021. We've just refreshed the AML-CFT handbook again, just recently. All of that information is really to help people make the right decisions. Yeah? The next stage beyond that is to try and influence and nudge people into making the right decisions. And so we use different types of information. So the reports from the projects, yeah, the public statements for when we have an investigation case, yeah, is there to try and help people saying, look, these are the problems that we found and these are the best practices we found. You need to think about these in your business and start moving in the right direction. We carry out inspections because that's our test and challenge function. That's where we try to get the evidence to show good, bad or indifferent. If it's good, fabulous, that evidence is collected. If it's indifferent, yeah, then you might only have some remediation to do, and that might be the only thing we need to do. Where it goes beyond that, then in addition to remediation, we may well look at an enforcement investigation. Yeah? And the enforcement investigation, yeah, are actually quite rare. Yeah? So the PEP project, as an example, 29 firms had full PEP inspections. 29. Of those, 5 were referred to enforcement. 29 done, 5 referred. So even though we found some quite interesting things in the PEP inspections, all 29, not all of them went to enforcement, not all of them went to fines, not all of them went into really serious activity by the FSA. The only other thing I'll say in there, because I'm covering the enforcement side as well, is engaging with us is usually far better, cheaper and quicker than not. But I would say that, wouldn't I? Right, quickly, AML-CFT supervision. Big recruitment drive, much bigger division, much stronger division. For those of you that don't know, I'm off now because I'm an old man. I'm retiring at the end of March. Fortunately, we've got Ashley. I'm going to shame Ashley now. Ashley White, who's been with the authority for a long time, and is fabulous, by the way, will be taking over as the head in the beginning of April. We've got a new tool to help us do risking. There's a big presentation on that on our website on Strix. Strix takes your returns, works them through and gives us a core message on risking, which we build into our risk assessments for what we do in terms of engagement and inspections. AML-CFT, sanctions questionnaires out there through Strix. There will be a proliferation finance questionnaire. It will be a simple questionnaire like the sanctions one. Both of those, by the way, to try and give us more information to feed into the island's risk assessments on sanctions and our risk assessments on proliferation finance. Yeah, so they're quite simple. We're just trying to collect information through that at the moment. Risk-based supervision, big thing. We use lots of different things in the toolkit. We'll use telephones, we'll use strict questionnaires, we'll do focused inspections, we'll do full inspections. Yeah. Those of you that are higher risk should expect more of those type of inspections. Those of you that are low risk, lower impact, fewer and less contact from us. The world's changing though. So looking forward, so one of the questions was asked, so looking forward, what will the FSA look like in a year? Who knows? What's coming over the horizon? We kind of know what our plans are, and we'll deliver on those plans. But other things may come over. New threats, new things. Where does AI fit? How much ESG pressure will there be? How much pressure will there be from the States and the EU in terms of trading environment? You know, the EU are putting pressure on London at the moment. Will it have an impact on us coming over here? So AI, ESG, crypto are all the areas that we're working on, and within that we need to develop and build our own strategic plan to make it fit that coming threat. Right, I'm going to stop because otherwise we will be here all day. Well, that's all right. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Kate Sims and I'm head of the AML CFT Policy Office within Cabinet Office. And my colleague with me is Shannon Reid. She's the Financial Crime Effectiveness Lead. And we're here to tell you a little bit about the work that we do and what the office represents. So just as an overview, really, to let you know that the AML CFT Policy Office is the central coordinating body for everything AML, CFT, CPF related. So we're responsible for monitoring the progress of the Moneyval preparations. We deal with stakeholder engagement with Financial Action Task Force and Moneyval. We lead the approach through the Moneyval assessment and any subsequent actions. We're responsible for monitoring progress against the Moneyval mutual evaluation report and ensuring that we're compliant with international standards. We monitor the Isle of Man compliance with relevant international conventions, and we liaise regularly with the Home Office and Ministry of Justice. Our team includes the head of delegation from Moneyval as well. We have trained assessor in the team, and a number of the agencies that we're currently working with also have trained assessors, and that's really important for us. And moving forward, we are hoping to get many more members of teams across each agency trained with Moneyval so that we all have a good insight as possible to help us move forward with the preparations that we're doing.
Okay. Sorry. So this is quite a busy slide. I appreciate that. We won't spend too much time on it. But the purpose of showing this is just to kind of give an illustration of the island's AML CFT framework, to show the various kind of agencies, boards, and how that fits into the framework through to the kind of chambers of Parliament. So as it's a short presentation, we won't go into every aspect, but the purpose is just to show the various stakeholders and how each plays a role in that wider AML CFT framework. And just to emphasise the point that an effective AML CFT framework, it requires kind of significant strategic coordination across the various agencies, across the public and private sector, and to have that high-level political commitment. Kind of any weakness in those areas can have a cascading effect on the overall effectiveness. So a lot of the work that we are undertaking at the moment is about kind of improving that strategic coordination across the board. And in terms of the programme of work that we have underway at the moment to strengthen the island's AML CFT framework, so from a Moneyval assessment perspective, the assessment itself looks at two aspects. It looks at technical compliance, so ensuring that you have the relevant legislation in place, you criminalise money laundering, terrorist financing. It's about having all those foundations. From a technical perspective, the Isle of Man is in a very good place. The next round of mutual evaluations will focus on the effectiveness side. So it's all well and good having those foundations in place, but in order to demonstrate that you have an effective framework, it's about evidencing those key outcomes. So Kate and I have spoken to a number of professional bodies, and you'll have heard us speak about what we refer to as the immediate outcomes. So a lot of the work that we're doing is focusing on those immediate outcomes, which are essentially the key goals of an effective AML CFT framework. So in terms of the programme of work that we have underway at the moment, we undertook a strategic review of effectiveness in November 2022. That culminated in a report with a number of recommendations across the various agencies involved in the framework. Those recommendations have been implemented into action plans, and the CFT Policy Office is the coordinating body. We're liaising closely, working closely with those agencies on their respective action plans to improve overall effectiveness. And Kate's going to kind of touch on what those key areas are in terms of those actions. So as we say, there's a significant amount of cross-organisational work, but we have that kind of high-level political commitment, and we are continuously monitoring our position against the assessment methodology. So that's a kind of core piece of work within our office. And Kate is just going to touch on the kind of key themes of those actions that are being undertaken.
So the programme of works that we're currently undertaking is a substantial programme of works, and as Shannon has mentioned, that's across all agencies. We also, on top of that, have commenced a programme of engagement with industry, which we'll touch upon a little bit later. But just to give you an overview of the work that we're actually doing, working with the agencies, is policies, strategies, risk assessments. They're key to everything that we're doing. So we are currently in the process of either amending or creating new risk assessments. We're starting from the bottom up this time, so we're doing individual risk assessments for each topic, which will then lead into an overall all-encompassing national risk assessment. We're hoping to have all of those done by 2025 and hopefully put us in a good position for when we're evaluated, which we believe will be in the autumn of 2026. We have increased capacity and resources across all agencies. We've had substantial funding to allow us to increase our staff. That's had political support across the board, and again the funding is still continuing, and we expect to have to increase again as the programme of works continues, so that will be ongoing. We are improving the collection of data. Ian mentioned their new Strix system. It's a great system that they've got, but data really for us is key. Everything stems from the data that we have and hold, and the Strix system is an invaluable part of that process. I think data historically has been an issue that not only the Isle of Man but also other jurisdictions really struggle to get their heads around, but we are really focused on data. It's one of the most important areas that we're working on at the moment, in the hope that we can hopefully get everything as it needs to be moving forward. International cooperation, again, it's an issue that a number of jurisdictions have. We're no different. We are focusing on that. It's key to an effective CFT framework, and we having looked at investigations and prosecutions, again, that's a huge issue for a number of jurisdictions. So you may be aware that we also now have a ring-fenced PIMLIT. It's called the Proactive International Money Laundering Investigation Team within the Constabulary. So again, they've increased their resources in the hope that moving forward we can deal with any issues that come from immediate outcomes 6 to 8, which covers law enforcement. Legislation, again, we are introducing numerous pieces of legislation. Ian's mentioned about the travel rule, and we have a Sanctions Act which is currently awaiting royal assent, and there are a number of introduction to the Proceeds of Crime Act that we're currently working on.
So this is just to kind of give an illustration of a timeline since the last mutual evaluation. Won't go into each individual one, but it's just to kind of show where we were and where we're going. Now, this is a kind of provisional timetable. As Kate said, we're still waiting on that confirmed date from Moneyval in terms of when the next mutual evaluation will be, but all indications are looking like that's autumn 2026. That's likely to be agreed at the May plenary, I think. So as soon as we have confirmation of that date, we'll of course communicate that to industry. If that kind of provisional timetable is going ahead and we're looking at autumn 2026, it's likely that it would go to the May plenary the following year, and we've kind of commenced this programme of engagement at this stage because we want this to be a continuous process. We want there to be kind of a two-way lines of dialogue between industry and government, and we're keen for that to kind of go beyond the mutual evaluation. In terms of the assessment itself, the Policy Office, so as we liaise with Moneyval, those discussions start at quite an early stage before the on-site, so about 7 months before we provide the technical compliance questionnaire, and from that point on there's a lot of kind of backwards and forwards between ourselves and Moneyval before they even kind of set foot on the island. So as we say, Kate touched on the national risk assessment. So we're working on a suite of risk assessments and updating the national risk assessment, the last one which was done in 2020, and we're aiming to have that done by 2025 ahead of the mutual valuation the following year.
So in order to do everything that we've discussed, collaboration really is key. And so moving forward, we have to adopt an all-island approach to tackling financial crime. This is set out in the Financial Crime Strategy 24 to 26. And the aim of that really is to get us all working together, because historically it was clear, going back to the 2016 evaluation, but also in the diagnostics analysis that we carried out in November 22, it was clear that everyone was working in silo. And for us to get a positive outcome from the next assessment, we have to be working together. So you will be hearing from us and others across the board all about collaboration. We want to bring industry on board with what we're doing, because without that, we won't be able to have a successful outcome. We must work together on that. And as part of that, we have introduced the public-private partnership. Again, that's all about collaborative working. Some of you may or may not know that moving forward, the assessors, they like to see this is ongoing business as usual. Our motto is AML is for life, not just for Moneyval, and that really is the case. It has to go beyond Moneyval. So all of the work that we're currently undertaking is now going to become business as usual. So it's not that we will stop, it's not a project. We won't stop at the end of the assessment, where hopefully we've avoided being grey listed. We will continue. So this really is an ongoing piece of work. So I think the relationships between us all is key, and for us as the Policy Office to make sure that we can, deal with any issues or concerns that there might be with industry. We really do welcome any comments, suggestions, thoughts. You're more than welcome to contact us, and we will do everything we can to either deal with your issues, to liaise with the relevant agencies if need be, to ensure that those are dealt with. As part of that, I mentioned the programme of outreach. So far, since October, we have spoken to 12 different professional bodies. We continue to do that, and then moving forward, we will start focusing on specific topics. Again, we invite industry to come to us. If you have any areas that you would like us to discuss for a more tailored session with you, we're more than happy to do that. So please feel free to contact us and we'll arrange that. But just to give you an idea of some of the upcoming sessions that we're going to do, we're looking at FATF standards, the DHA list, applying a risk-based approach, virtual assets, proliferation financing, terrorist financing, suspicious activity reports, anti-bribery and corruption. We'll also look at arranging external speakers. Some of you may have come to our event last week where we had Edgar Lopez attend from the Gibraltar FIU. He did an awareness session on proliferation finance. And so we really are hoping to kind of reel a lot of those type of events out now. And we certainly found it really beneficial last week. Ian mentioned in relation to the questionnaire on the proliferation, that's not to catch anyone out. That the purpose of those questionnaires is that we really do need the information back so that we can then incorporate it and take it on board when we're finalising the proliferation risk assessment, because that's the first risk assessment that we're undertaking. We're well on the way with that, and we really do need that information back to hopefully bottom off any potential issues that we have with the risk assessment. We're also looking at webinars. I know that some agencies, particularly the FSA, do webinars already, but we're looking at doing that across the board. And again, those will be on key topics. The first one that we're looking at doing is in relation to the financial crime strategy. And again, if there's anything that you want from us on any topics, please do let us know, and we'll make sure that we sort that out for you.
So we've kind of touched on the fact that there's a significant amount of kind of cross-organisational work within the public sector, within government. So in terms of what industry can do to prepare for the next mutual evaluation, is just to continue that ongoing engagement with government, so through the relevant forums, whether that's the AML CFT advisory group that the Cabinet Office chairs, and all other kind of the relevant government agencies attend that, through the regulatory forums, so the Gambling Supervision Commission hold quarterly AML forums, and Ian touched on the fact that the FSA are looking to introduce regular AML focused forums, so continue engagement through them, and we really advocate industry kind of adding things to the agenda. In terms of the AML group, that the advisory group that we chair in the Cabinet Office, we always welcome agenda items, topics for discussion from industry, and just for that to continue. Through consultation processes, so we've kind of touched on legislation, in terms of the financial crime strategy 24 to 26, which has just kind of been published. We received some really, really helpful contributions from industry. So just to kind of continue that consultation process, because that's really beneficial to us when developing those kind of policy and strategy documents. Continuing through engagement through working groups and the education and awareness sessions. So Kate touched on the fact that we recently had proliferation financing. We're looking to continue to bring kind of external expert speakers to the island, and we're really keen to kind of utilise any knowledge and expertise within industry. So if there's anything within your kind of particular sectors that you would be happy to share with a wider audience, we're happy to kind of be a part of that as well. Sharing knowledge and best practice we've touched on. We've also spoke about understanding the risks. So being really familiar with the national risk assessment and implementing that within your businesses in your own business risk assessments. So we've also mentioned that we're going through the process of updating that, and there'll be a lot of industry involvement throughout the risk assessment process. Kate's mentioned kind of reaching out to us in terms of any questions or concerns. So just to kind of, one of the key objectives of us being here today is just to kind of say that we have that kind of open door policy, and we really kind of welcome industry offering any kind of solutions or just kind of raising those concerns, because we can't address the issues if we don't know what they are. We've touched on the immediate outcomes, so we're looking to do some additional sessions on the kind of industry focused aspects of the assessment methodology. So we're as coordinated as we can be in the run-up for the next mutual evaluation, sharing some additional information about the parts of the assessment that relate to industry. And just to kind of add on the end, be patient with us. This is a significant assessment for the Isle of Man. It's really important that we achieve a positive outcome, and the best way we can do that is by working together. So the next slide, Kate's just going to touch on some kind of things that we have learnt from recent Moneyval mutual evaluations?
I think it's well acknowledged now that Moneyval, they really are one of the toughest evaluators. The assessors are so tough and they're so unpredictable in topics. We really do struggle to kind of and guess kind of what they're actually going to come in and evaluate us on, which means that we've had to cover every single thing that they could possibly look at to make sure that we have every chance of having that positive outcome. And I think it's key, and I know we've mentioned the risk assessments, but they really are key. It's so important for us to have a comprehensive, detailed and accurate risk assessment, and for that to be incorporated into your business risk assessments in turn. All of the risk assessments and strategies, they must be integrated, and we have to be able to document that, because in order to be successful on the next evaluation, we have to look that we can demonstrate effectiveness, and we can only do that by showing that we've documented everything. And that means that if processes, policies, procedures, everything has to be documented. So we will continuously be honing on about national risk assessments and the fact that we have to have everything documented, because it's so important. And also moving forward, it's more of a risk-based approach. So again, we need to look at that, and we'll be identifying all of the risks where we can, but that responsibility sits with you as well, because you need to identify your own risks and ensure that they're covered within your business risk assessments. We regularly liaise with our counterparts in other jurisdictions. As part of the programme of works that we're doing, we're doing work looking at other jurisdictions and how well they have done in evaluations, but also looking at their strategies, national risk assessments and so on, because as Ian mentioned, if there's anything we can steal, we absolutely will steal. It makes sense to do that. So I'm not ashamed to say that, and we will be stealing it and adapting it to fit with the Isle of Man. And Jersey, they're the most recent of our closest counterparts to be evaluated. I'm in regular contact with my counterpart, and at some point moving forward, we will have our colleagues from Jersey coming over from a number of agencies to give you an update on how their evaluation went. At the moment, it's difficult to tell. They're still in the backwards and forwards process of finalising their report, and as Shannon mentioned, they will hopefully know their results at the May plenary. And it will be after that that they come over and have a chat with us. What I do know is that they were very organised in the work that they're doing. They've put a lot of effort into exactly what we're doing, and they seem very positive from their assessment. So we can only hope and have everything crossed that it went well, but from what I'm hearing, it did. We don't have any other information yet, but as I've said, we'll keep industry updated and everyone else as soon as we do have more information, and hope to have those over later in the year to give you an overview in person. Thanks.
And just to kind of close off, so I think the key term of today is collaboration. So just to kind of emphasise that message, the programme of outreach that we have undertaken, so as we said, we started off by speaking to professional bodies just to give an overview of who we are in the AML Policy Office, the programme of work that we're overseeing in terms of improving the overall effectiveness of our framework. And we'll continue to speak to the professional bodies to keep you update on how it's developing, and kind of in the run-up to Moneyval. When we have those lessons learned from Jersey, we'll share them as soon as we have them. The outreach on the assessment process, we'd be looking to provide a lot of kind of face-to-face training and information once we've got that kind of concrete timeline ahead of us. We will share that as soon as possible. And we'd also be looking to undertake kind of mock interviews to prepare both government and industry for the mutual evaluation. So our kind of counterparts in Jersey put a lot into undertaking kind of mock interview exercises, mock assessments, and that was received really well, and that made sure that they had a really coordinated approach. Everybody was on the same page, so we'd definitely be looking to adopt that process. And as we've said, just conscious of time, we'll be focusing on that increased understanding of our risks. So there'll be a lot of outreach on the risk assessments and a lot of industry involvement, and those outreach sessions on specific subjects. So those key areas being, sanctions, suspicious activity reports, risk-based approach. So we'll continue them, and we welcome any kind of suggestions from industry in terms of anything that you feel that your respective sectors would benefit from. And I think we did allow for questions at the end, but I think we'll just leave that for the panel discussion. So our contact details are up on the screen, and we'd be happy to share the slides, as conscious there was some of them with a fair bit of information. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Shannon. Yes, I think collaboration is certainly a key theme coming out of this today. And we work very closely with the CFT Policy Office and the FSA in order to make sure that all of our input is captured at the appropriate time. We're running slightly behind schedule, as is the case for all of these things, I think. So we're probably going to restrict the Q&A now to about 10 minutes, so we've got time for a refreshment break before the second half. So I'm going to invite Sue to the stage. She's got the technical wizardry of Slido, and we'll do a quick Q&A.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Michael. Lots of very different questions coming in, so I'm just going to run through a few of them, and we'll just pick where relevant response maybe can come from, or if people have got a few different views, happy to hear them as well. One of the first questions, it's about strategy. And it's, does Finance Isle of Man's strategy of attracting business and people to the island align with the FSA's strategy? We're seeing more and more enforcement action.
Okay, that's a good question. I mean, certainly the overarching strategy is the Isle of Man's economic strategy for the next 10 years. So there's obviously that's looking at significant inflows of business, certainly of people, and an increase in population. And that's all consistent with growth that we see in our sector. In terms of the last couple of years, we've seen significant growth within financial and professional services. In the last 3 years, we've grown by nearly 600 in terms of job numbers. So so we're on a positive trajectory in that sense. In terms of being consistent with the FSA strategy, I think we certainly when Ian and I chat, we see ourselves as part of the same team, really. I mean, all of us in the room trade on the fact that we're a well-regulated, top-class jurisdiction. So I know everyone here is invested in making sure that continues, and that we can continue to do that. Obviously, the FSA's role is particularly relevant and keen in that.
Yeah, I'm entirely with you on that, Michael. The whole point of the exercise of having a financial sector regulator is to show that we've got appropriate, robust and strong regulation in place, and that we deal with the issues that come up. So as I said earlier, the real game is to try and move people into voluntary compliance, is the phrase that I've used over my career. If people can understand what the risks are and deal with them appropriately, that's the ideal. That's what we're trying to get to. In terms of enforcement action, there's no increase in enforcement action, because I head up enforcement as well now. I've looked at the data. The number of cases brought in and dealt with year on year has not increased over the past few years. It's pretty consistent. Yeah, so there's not been no great increase in the enforcement side, but it's a natural element of getting that compliance picture moving. Yeah, we only take enforcement action where there are significant material problems with the business. Yeah, although we don't deal with small errors or mistakes or anything like that. None of that comes to enforcement. We're only dealing with quite major cases, and the ones that we publish tend to be ones which have been quite involved in quite in-depth investigations involved. So we're not driving people down the street for minor things. We're only taking on the most serious cases.
Okay, thank you. A number of questions on this section, actually. With regards to Moneyval, what would be the impact potentially to the island in the event that we were grey listed?
The impact, we say, would be huge.
Mm-hmm.
It would have a significant impact, not just in terms of reputation and on business, but on the GDP. I think it's guesstimated at probably close to 10%. I know that we'd said originally about 7, 8, but we're probably more realistically about 10%. So that in turn is huge. And also as well, it's one of the reasons why we're putting all of the work into it now to hopefully avoid being grey listed. But in the worst case scenario, if we were to be grey listed, it puts us in a really good position to come off that grey list, because what we know is that the work that's required to come off, the cost of coming off, is a lot more than what we're actually doing now. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the fact that we had Edgar Lopez over from Gibraltar last week, they were grey listed, and he was saying that in recent months they're now seeing the significant impact of grey listing, and I'm about to have a meeting with him just to kind of get a view really as to what that looks like. But it would be substantial, it's significant for the island.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. You know, with the businesses in the room, I think you know, any risk of that nature would probably affect us all in probably different ways. But if you know, if we're in a situation where there's any kind of retrenchment in terms of some international facilities that might be available on the island, I mean, that's, no one wants to go down that road. So it would we certainly anticipate a significant impact. And as Kate says, collectively doing all we can to make sure we tick all the boxes and pass when the assessors arrive.
Okay, just to move on to a slightly different topic, a couple of questions here again. We're talking about what the ambitious projects are for finance in 2024. How is this update going to be communicated through to our stakeholders and to the public? Michael?
Okay, I can certainly take that. We've got a regular, we have regular engagement with all of the trade bodies. Some of you have seen myself, Paul, Simon, talk at industry events. We're certainly planning to do more of this. But during the course of the year, I think with trade body events, and particularly as things develop around AML-CFT, around beneficial ownership, we want as much engagement as possible. So I'd say that probably on a regular basis, that'll be through industry events and trade body events.
Okay, and again, a number of points here on the beneficial ownership register, which you just mentioned again. How does Isle of Man deal with external pressures like a public accessible beneficial ownership?
Yep. Beneficial ownership, obviously a hot topic, particularly before
lots of questions.
Before Christmas. It's an interesting pressure here, isn't there? Because some of the statements from the UK are inconsistent with European best practice and standards in this area. At the moment, I think our focus is to make sure that we're consistent with all of the European best practice in this area, which does not include public access to beneficial ownership information. We're working very closely, and I'll hand over to Kate in a minute because she's closer to this. We work very closely with Jersey and Guernsey to make sure that we're aligned, and also with the UK government. I think the statement made before Christmas, you'll have all seen. We're working towards a register which is open for obliged entities. And also working on the broad topic of legitimate interest. And some of you, if you have read on this and looked at that in any detail, there is no definition of that at the moment across Europe. So that I think it's probably fair to say there's many more questions than answers. But we certainly, from my perspective, as we go through this year, I referenced just before, working with trade bodies, we'll make sure that we get as much input and engagement as possible as we come to landing on what those definitions are, what that system is, and how that might work too on a practical basis. Because anything we decide from a policy basis, our colleagues in the registry have got to be able to implement it as well. I mean, from a policy point of view, Shannon, anything to add on that?
Just to kind of Sorry, that's working now. Yeah, just to emphasise that we have been working very closely with Jersey and Guernsey throughout the process. So there was the initial joint commitment back in, was it 2019, where we were working towards the public register. I mean, the key point to make is that from a kind of technical compliance perspective, in terms of where we are with international standards, the Isle of Man meets international standards. Public registers goes beyond the international standards, so it's a very kind of political issue. So the revised commitment made following the CGEU ruling back in November last year was just kind of, as Michael said, to introduce public access for, so access for obliged entities, and then the legitimate interest access. So that's the most challenging aspect. And the three Crown dependencies will continue to kind of monitor the position internationally in terms of how legitimate interests are defined. And we're keen to kind of ensure that we are kind of working jointly as kind of the feedback we've had is industry are keen to kind of have that consistency across the jurisdictions, and we're really keen for that from a kind of political perspective as well.
Perhaps just to finish on that, those of you representing businesses who are active in multiple jurisdictions, I think your views that's going to be quite interesting as well, to make sure that we're brought, as aligned from a business and a government perspective as far as possible on that.
Okay, no, thank you for that. I'm just very conscious of time, so maybe just one last question. There's quite a lot of questions here with regards to the increased use of AI and the impact this is having on employment numbers. Also, it's tied in with where there seems to be a perception from a couple of questions coming through that the financial services sector is shrinking. I don't think that's the case from what you've mentioned earlier, but Michael, if I can start with you on that one.
Yep, the financial services sector is growing broadly across the last. In fact, if people saw me playing with my phone before, I was actually just looking at the dashboard, the economic dashboard on the economic advisory part of our website. Financial services has grown fairly consistently over the last 6 years, so that's positive. Obviously, we still have many vacancies, over 200 advertised vacancies at the moment. So technically, I'm going to use one of Ian's phrases here, but because I'm old. Whenever we have technological change, there's always concern, I think, over impact on jobs and impact on, what does it mean? How do things evolve? And certainly my experience is that, yes, job roles have evolved and technology has evolved, and we've taken advantage of it. And to an extent, it's facilitated growth within our world, within the financial services sector. It's facilitated perhaps jobs becoming more value add, more interesting, and actually help businesses grow where they can't necessarily just recruit more staff. So I think there's lots of opportunity. There's obviously a need for lots of concerted work on this. I know businesses in the room, particularly larger multinationals, have already got significant activity around this in terms of systems and procedures. I'm sure it'll be positive for the Isle of Man. I think from a regulatory perspective, whether AI is, I know it's on.
Well, I'm old enough to remember computers coming in for the first time, so we can go a fair bit back. Yes, just before you, Michael. So here's the thing. When spreadsheets first came in and people moved from manual recording things to automated recording things, when computers came in, we all went, what are these plastic boxes, typewriters with screens, what the bloody hell is that? The world moves on, and they bring with them both benefits and challenges. Fun enough, Michael and I were chatting last week. I was online. HSBC, using AI, which I think is actually machine learning, are now doing 1 billion customer checks per month. 1 billion onboarding checks a month. Now, it doesn't say how many they were doing before they used AI, which is a bit of a cheat. But what they're saying is the big benefit from what the system they're using, is a vast reduction in false positives. So if you can develop your tools either through machine learning or AI to take out the rubbish, only leaving the cases that you have to work on, It's not that you need more people, but you need people with the right skills. Yeah. At the same time, AI more and more will come into scam and fraud in the same way as Facebook and all the social media stuff is. So there are huge challenges coming in for industry, for compliance people, as well as great opportunities. I'm not going to try and guess what you're going to face because it's way beyond my ken at the moment.
Okay, well, thank you. And just one last request from a number of people for Dina. Can we share the contact details for the various different agencies? Thank you. Panel, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks. We're running approximately 20 minutes late, but hopefully that's okay for everyone. We're definitely going to be finished by midday. So if anybody's got discs to worry about or such things, but thanks for coming back after the refreshments. So for this second session this morning, we've essentially there's two parts. I think certainly I think every speaker actually before the break mentioned skills. That's one of the key challenges facing the Isle of Man. It's certainly been I think skills and recruitment of experienced staff has been certainly the biggest single issue in our world. I think certainly for as long as I can remember, and having had responsibility for HR and recruitment in my previous life for 20 years, it was very much a strain. So Peter Reid is the chair of our newly established skills board, and people will talk about that. So Pete's going to talk about that and present for roughly 20 minutes, and then we're going to finish with a panel discussion. We've got Rob Cattle and Jill Marples from our board, together with myself and Pete, and we'll take questions at that time on Slido, on anything skills related or anything. So, without any further ado, I'll hand over to Pete. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm just afraid you might have all fallen asleep after your croissants. You're definitely awake, aren't you? Brilliant turnout. Firstly, I am standing up, okay? I know this is quite a high lectern. Where's Adam? I can see him somewhere. There he is. Adam was telling me, actually, that when he stands up here, he has the opposite problem of having to bend down and actually get to it. For those of you that don't know me, I am Peter Reid, obviously the chair of the skills board. Just tell you a little bit about myself if you don't know me. I spent sort of 30 odd years working in banks, insurance, operational, back office for banks. But before that, at the tender age of 16, I joined the RAF and was in air traffic. And that was quite an interesting time. We had the Falklands that happened during that sort of... It wasn't my fault, by the way, but it did happen. And I ended up training other air traffic controllers, which is what we did. And then had a complete career change, obviously coming into banking. So it's just a good example of how your skills actually need to change, and something that certainly when you're the age of 16, you don't think that at the age of maybe 60 that you'll be standing on a stage talking to people about skills as the skills board independent chair. So that is something that I just want you to hold throughout what we go through today. And I've also got a clicker, and I'm really excited because it's got a laser on it. Have you seen that? I promise I won't point it at you, but I'm quite looking forward to using this. So, skills, it's really interesting. If you go and try and look up some positive headlines about skills, it's quite challenging. This is just a little snapshot of what people are saying in the press about skills. And interestingly, you often find it difficult to find headlines about the Isle of Man. Not a problem here at all. Unfortunately, most of the headlines are not positive. And if you can see there, there's all about the things that you actually already know about. So the skills shortage we have on the Isle of Man. I think if you work in compliance, you must be feeling pretty good at the moment because you know that there's maybe a shortage in there, and that's great because that can push the salaries up maybe, or even give you a nice choice of employer if you fall out with the one you've got. But from an industry point of view, that's quite a big problem. And if we look at some of the IT roles that we've got in finance as well, we've got a shortage there. So, that's just a little snippet, but These headlines are just what you know already. And that is that we do have a shortage of skills on the island. It is impactful in terms of you running your businesses and being in your businesses, but it's also difficult because the people that are there have to make up the work in the meantime. So, you know, it was quite interesting just having a look at these. So the government, and does anybody work for the government? Any hands up in here? Oh yes, lovely, we've got some people here. So we have to be nice to the government if there's some people in here. No, but seriously, if we look at the government have looked at this and said, well, we should really do something about it. So what we'll do is we'll invent a skills board. And they can sort it all out. So anytime anybody mentions skills, we'll put it into this place over here. And that was probably about 1.5 years ago. And 6 months ago, they came to me and said, yeah, this skills board, we need someone independent because we've got 3 ministers sat on it. And we've got some people who are experts, like the head of UCM and, you know, people who are really interested in skills. And then we've got the Chamber of Commerce on this side, and they can't agree on really how to go forward and what is skills and what do we do. So that's where they asked me, and you're probably wondering why the heck they did that. But the reason they asked me was because I'm sort of in the middle, okay? And if you look at actually what the government want to do, they want to solve this issue around skills. They want to make sure that actually we start looking from, you know, if I dare say, cradle to grave, so schools right the way through lifelong learning to try and improve this situation so that we can actually have a really good sustainable economy, but also great opportunity for the people on the island, as well as bringing talent over. So, oh, that's come out really small, hasn't it? Crikey. So I get to use my little laser now, look. The only reason, I can see that's popped over as well, hasn't it? The circle. So this circle here should be just around there. But the reason I put that on there was not to fool you, but to let you know that it is actually in the strategic programme for the government, okay? They want to launch a workforce and skills programme for the island, a proper programme that goes all the way through lifelong learning, that engages with businesses, but also they actually believe that it is strategically critical in terms of what we need to do to improve the economy. Now, let's just have a look. So the first sort of thing that I looked at when I moved into the board was, okay, do we have some really good figures to tell us where we are now? In terms of today, what are the skills that we need and what are the skills that are going to make a big difference? And this is what I sort of saw. And this actually comes from the Island Plan. For those of you, I'm sure you're on that every weekend looking at how we're doing against the Island Plan. I'm hoping that you have all had a look at it because it is really good. But I was quite surprised when I read this because it sort of says, well, you know, we've got sort of, get me laser on there, we've got over 1,000 vacancies, give or take 300 or 400. We've got sort of some job seekers. We know how many people are employed. But actually, this echoed exactly what everybody else has been telling me in business. We don't really have an excellent set of data. We don't have something that we can look at and say, by sector, these were all the vacancies, and also these are the skills that are needed for those vacancies. But also, we don't have something that moves forward maybe 2 or 3 years and says, these are the skills we need to educate now, and these are the skills that we're going to have to attract or educate on the island. What we have got, if you look on the right side, is, well, yeah, we're going to have 5,000 new jobs. Excellent. And also an estimated population of 100,000, which is quite a big jump up by 2037. Okay. Now, I'm assuming that they'd like most of those people, you know, a lot of those people to be working. And, you know, that's where you start to get into the detail of what are those jobs, what are the skills that are going to be needed, and what are the things that we need to do for success now in skills, not just in finance, but also across all the other sectors. So what we did was we got together with the skills board, and the first thing was we wanted to get a proper purpose and a proper strategy. I went out to the digital board, and one of the colleagues there said, actually, we look at the skills board as somewhere where you kick things into the long grass. So when you don't really know what to do with it, you give it to them and nothing will happen with it. Okay? So that's really the skills board. Sorry to, upset you, but that's it, Pete. And, that to me, not good. So the first thing we did was focus on a purpose. Okay? This piece around understanding the workforce and the skills need for the island is absolutely critical. And when I say understanding, that doesn't mean getting somebody maybe in government to say, well, this is it. That is actually going out to the businesses on the island and engaging with the businesses on the island at all levels, in all sectors, and understanding where they see the skills that are needed. And that's not just skills of people leaving school, but that's lifelong learners, people who might return, people who are working, people that might want to move across businesses and across sectors. In terms of our mission, we quickly got to this point of saying, well, actually, we want to help lifelong learners. We want to help individuals actually see this as a positive place to be. But we also want to support the island plan. And that should be ultimately where we're trying to go. And I guess, this lifelong learning and strong, diverse economy is really trying to encapsulate. This is where we're aiming for. So, we came up with a strategy based around these 4 key areas. Now, I'm not going to go through them individually, but engaged employers and data informed, that's something I've already talked about. And when I say engaged just doesn't mean us telling employers, oh, this is good, this is bad. Engaged employers is actually two-way conversations and actually two-way informations where we're building on the back of that feedback, where we're actually setting up a proper forum for employers to feed in the skills that they need. Data, absolutely critical for us in terms of genuinely understanding what are the numbers at the moment? What is the information telling us about the short-term needs in the next 6 months of the skills we need? So is this something that's on the island, or do we need to bring it onto the island? And then looking longer term at how are those skills needed to change? So in 3 years' time, what sort of skills are we going to need? There's a large bank that I used to work for, and they did a huge survey across all of their roles. They got this fantastic consultancy in. And at the time, there's about 80,000 people working for the bank. And what they came out with was that they said, we will have to change 30% of the roles that are actually existing in this bank at the moment. Okay, in its insurance operations, in its banking operations, in its finance operations, all the way across. And we do that in one of 2 ways. We either let this 30% go, or we re-educate them and reskill them. And you can imagine that's obviously the better route to take. But that's the sort of challenge that we have in terms of looking forward for skills. Talked about lifelong learning already. But lifelong learning is absolutely critical, especially as we have on this island an ageing population. Okay, I left school with 1 O level and a D in art, so I suppose I could write books and paint computers, I don't know, but it was pretty useless. I went to college, I did my ONC, my BTEC, I did an MBA, I then went through the LIBF and I did all my fellowships and all this sort of thing and got chartered in things. But most of that was after school because I messed about at school. Okay. Now, we have lots of different types of learners on this island. And, it's never too late. It's never too late to change direction, to do things in a different way. And that sometimes means learning while you're at work, and sometimes it's better to do it before. It depends on the individual. But that's something that we need to start to recognise and build with businesses, things like apprenticeships, which I know that you're doing at the moment. There's been some fantastic work on that. The last one there, diverse talent. this isn't like the plug for diversity because we want to be, oh yeah, we should really be saying that. This is actually about having diverse talent because it adds value to what you're doing, okay? And it's something that we really have to recognise. If we look at the top of a company down to the bottom of the company, that diversity can add huge value. And I know you know that, but it's important to recognise within skills that culturally we have to become a skills economy, but a diverse skills economy. And that's not just in sex or in colour of skin. That's also in terms of the talent that we have and the type of talent that we have. So, what we've done, we've built this strategy. We've now got some actions. And actually, the first thing that I said when I went into the board was, it's all very well having a strategy and we can make it look really good. We can get the marketing guys in the government to, you know, put nice colours on it and it'll be nice and simple and everyone can look at it. But what I'm really interested in is the actions that you're going to do. So over the next 3 years, we have to have an action plan that is measurable, that is owned, so there are owners on it, that are deliverable and that can be monitored along the way. Now, I've just put a few of the signature actions up here, but really what we're trying to create in the skills board is a one-stop shop so that anybody can go onto this one-stop shop, for example, an employer or an employee, and they can say, actually, I'd like to be an air traffic controller. What do I need to do on the Isle of Man to be an air traffic controller? And it will give them a career path. It will show them actually somebody, maybe like me, who started off as an air traffic control and then went on to doing, you know, an island director role at a bank. But it will give them real examples of people, but it will also show them the correct career path and the skills that they need. Okay? So that's just one element of what we want to try and build. The other piece we want to try and build is that understanding, so that we really do understand what your skills needs are in the businesses that you're in and the sectors that you're in. And because of that, I've been out to all of the agencies. We've presented the strategy. This is just a snapshot, and I apologise. I didn't think you'd want to go through 28 pages of the full strategy, but I can do it if you want. But this is just a snapshot. And what we've done is we've built this in a way that we've got deliverables over 6 months, so we're just refining this now. This is literally being penned this week with the dates, the ownership, and where we'll need to get funding as well. And you can see things on here. There's things like, you know, making it visible and accessible. So how can you enter a one-stop shop? How do you get onto that? Well, obviously there's the web, but there's loads of stuff going on the island. Just the Job you may have heard about just recently. What a fantastic initiative. What we want to do is bring all of that in, and it's sort of an organic piece that actually will grow as employers, as agencies, actually put their stuff in there as well. So, you know, we'd expect to see finance agency putting stuff into our bank of information. Other things on there, like the viability of an island campus is being looked at the moment, which I think is an absolutely brilliant idea. And as I've been going out and talking to the agencies, talking to businesses, I get the same sort of issues that come up that actually you say, is that a skills issue? Like, what are we doing about housing? Well, why? Well, if we had more houses available, we could actually get students to come here and study. We could get nurses to come here and study. We could attract people a lot easier. What about attracting people over with financial incentives? Now, you might say that's not skills, but we've got somebody on the board who's head of Locate, which is quite handy, who can actually get involved in that and say, okay, we'll make it transparent. What are we going to do about it? So we've put actions on there that might actually be in other parts of the island. It might not be on the skills board, but there will be accountability to that skills board. What we've also done is we've gone over 12 months. So again, you can see the sort of things that we want to do, that we will be doing. And, you know, again, I just go back to the graduate piece. Big comment I keep getting is, yeah, great sending people to the UK or to wherever they're going, and they get all educated, but they never come back. Shouldn't there be some sort of incentive for them to come back? You know, what about if we've paid for it? Well, is that right, that we then don't get the benefit as an island? Lots of questions like this. What we also want to do is to start to get more programs involved with Locate, where it will actually help people settle and integrate onto the island. So this is about the attraction of skills to the island. And then we've also got the longer term view. So again, build this into the program plan. We put dates down, we monitor it. One of the big parts that we do want to get is a skills barometer, which really gives us that data with your help, and this is where we will need your help, to actually say where are we, you know, lean in skills and where are we actually really good in skills, so that you can see that, you know, where are the jobs at the moment across the sectors and what skills are needed for those. But again, going on to the longer term, this one-stop shop, in 3 years' time, what do we think that will be? Do we have courses now at the UCM that will actually feed that need? And that's a bit more difficult. That's a challenging thing to do, or even after the 3 years. So that's sort of the plan. I guess, you know, this is what we've been doing since I've been on the board for the last 5 months. And that strategy is now just being signed off. And part of that sign-off was actually going round to your agencies and talking to them. We've put it to government. We've got 3 ministers actually on the board, which is excellent. So we've got some decision makers there. And we've been testing that out with different businesses as well. So first step, strategy, that's there just about now. We're just dotting some I's and T's, crossing the T's. We're now forming the action plan. That's been done this week. So that's the deliverables that I showed you on there. But obviously, you know, what's the objective, what's the task, and then how we're going to monitor that is going to be really critical. So we get a proper programme of work. And that will beg the question about certain areas will need financing, and we'll have to business case those. And then the next step for me with the board is to then, now we've got this sort of aeroplane off the ground on full power to get up there, we then sort of come back and say, right, let's monitor the progress. Let's have a look if we're actually on track to do this, or if we're actually on track to do it a year later and adjust a plan. And I think the one thing I would say to you is, all the things that I've talked to you about, I see them as not set in stone, but maybe a bit more organic, where, you know, they will change, the needs will change, there'll be things that will be added in, there'll be things that you'll be telling us that will change our direction slightly maybe. We might do first draw and say, well, we think these are the skills, and you might be going, no, not really. That's not what we need. So it will be something that needs to be fleet of foot and needs to be able to move about. That's a quick, and it is a very quick run through of what we've been doing. I hope that gives you a bit of confidence in terms of there is actually a plan, and also some confidence in the fact that you've actually got someone from finance background that's in there. And I don't know if you know, but you know, where I used to work, we introduced apprenticeships some time ago, and the great thing is you're ahead of the game with your agency in actually looking at reintroducing some apprenticeships, which is excellent. But it's not just about that. It's about what skills do we need, short and long term, to actually meet your needs and the growth of the economy. So thank you very much. Normally I would take questions now, but instead we're going to move into a panel, I believe. So, yeah. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Peter. As you mentioned earlier, when skills brings in so many different areas, from housing to air links to goodness knows what, so a eclectic mix of questions are coming up to the panel. Okay. One of the questions being asked is, reskilling, won't it increase the economically active population? Immigration is key. Is it build it and then they will come, or get them and build it later? It is for you.
Well, it's interesting to say build it and they will come. So if we take ourselves just outside of finance for a moment, look at all of the work that's actually going on in the next sort of 12 months in Douglas in terms of redevelopment. Huge amounts of redevelopment, and at last areas that we've probably looked at and thought it looks like Berlin in 1945, that are actually going to get a makeover in terms of new buildings. And when you think about what is needed just to do that, that's going to be quite a challenge. I know when we went through moving buildings recently, the amount of skills that we had to bring over to the island again, huge, because it wasn't all here. So I think there is, if I take that, literally, there is a lot of building that's going to go on. But I think in terms of what we're looking at for skills, per se, across the whole of the economy, I think there's a bit of a different challenge. And it's first to understand what are the skills that we need. One of the things that I've seen is that at the moment, the picture isn't really there in one place for me to go and say, oh, we've got a shortage there and a shortage there. I can go and talk to different sectors and they will tell me. So if I go and talk to finance sector, they'll tell me, oh yeah, we're short on compliance roles at the moment. We're struggling. If we go into the IT areas, there's, social engineering, oh yeah, we need someone in that. We need coders, we need this, that and the other. But it isn't in one place. So the first challenge for me is to actually get that picture so that we're focusing on the things that will make a difference. If that makes sense.
Is this working?
It is.
I think picking up on that and that one-stop shop, Peter, we've had for a long time a really good training infrastructure. You've got trade associations, you've got professional bodies. I think it's just key that we all stop working in silos and start working together, because a number of us do duplicate. We've got a skills committee for the finance agency. I'm sure the other agencies have got skills committees. So what we need you to do is to pull that all together, and while we're building the strategy, leverage on what we've already got, I think is important.
Okay, thank you. One of the other things that we've been mentioning here about, and I remember this actually when I started in banking, talking about going back to day release models where youngsters earn while they learn to gain their qualifications. Is that something that's on your agenda as well that you're thinking about, or?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is where it's really interesting. If you go to a smaller business, that day release can be really difficult.
Yeah.
If you go to a larger business, it's often easier to get that day release. But larger businesses would probably also, if you're doing a more involved course like a degree, or would expect you to spend time of your own as well. But absolutely that's being focused on. And if you look at the apprenticeship scheme, for example, that you're thinking of at the moment, that actually plays into that day release piece. To me, again, you've got to be sensitive, though, to the sector that you're in. And I think, it will need some support from government in terms of funding, especially for the smaller businesses. So where we're doing that, we do need to help.
I've probably got another thing to add to that. We have recently started discussions with UCM. A lot of their, particularly their degree courses, are not 5-day-a-week programs. They're 3 days, predominantly 3 days. So we've just started a project with UCM to see if there's students, particularly on financial type courses, who you want are available for work to get those kind of plugged in as well to businesses, and obviously with Jill representing the insurance community and Rob with the fiduciary community. I think there's plenty of businesses who would actively look at people even if they're only for a day or two a week. So I think that almost that day release can work in two different ways.
I think the firms have to be flexible as well and allow kind of day release and upskilling and studying. And I find where I work in the fiduciary sector that often we're slightly short-staffed on an ongoing basis generally at a certain level as well, and that we bring people in and we're that keen for them to hit the ground running and to do the work that needs to be done, and obviously we've got revenue targets to meet as well, that we don't put enough emphasis into training and encouraging apprenticeships and that sort of thing and feeding back into agency as to what we need. It's all systems go all the time, but really we need to take a step back and consider what we need to do to plug that gap, which I think is kind of in the middle. It's we can get school leavers and graduates, but it's the senior admin and senior compliance officer. So we really need to upskill people to get to that level as quickly as we can. So we all need to put time and effort and invest into that, really.
Okay. And I did notice on your slide, Pete, that you mentioned that they were looking at sort of incentives, relocation packages, various other things that are happening. A couple of questions coming from Slido saying, what more can Ireland do to promote those relocation packages? We're in competition with other Crown dependencies, etc. Where can we steal the edge, or what can we do differently?
Yeah, so I think this comes back again to be very precise about what we're doing. I'll give you an example. When I first came to the island, the government were brilliant, and they would pay for things like, we'll pay for a desk, and we'll pay for certain things if you bring a role to the island. When you actually look at that, though, that probably wasn't helping me to attract people to the island. So firstly, what you do is really important. And is it, again, what businesses know will make the difference? That's why we wanted to get Locate onto our board, because the head of Locate has some quite good ideas around, well, we think we could change this a little bit better, and we could be more precise to say, this will attract people, but this is just a, oh yeah, we're doing it. Okay, so I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing in terms of attraction to the island, you know, we've got to play to our strengths. It is a safe island, and you know there's a lot of people that will come to this island because of that and because of the excellent environment, the beautiful island that it is. But are we making the most of that when we sell it, when we work in businesses? I don't know. I'm sure we do. But you know, we have to start to look at what are we really good at and focus on that, and not try and do things that actually are not sustainable and we can't afford to do. The last thing I would say about attraction is it's really important to get your feedback into us and into Locate, because I think that there are more good ideas out there about how we could make this better than we actually have at the moment. And because you're on the coalface and you're talking to the people, prospective people that are going to come to the island, or get them to stay on the island. So that would be mine.
Okay, any other comments?
From me?
Nope, from Jill at the panel.
No,
I know you love more Pete, don't worry.
Can't shut him up. I think it's key as well that we promote the finance industry, and we do set it out as a choice for people maybe leaving school. Certainly when I drifted into financial services, I think a lot of us did, but we need to make it a choice, and we need to sell ourselves. Those case studies are great, so more case studies, and younger people to show how they can grow. And the diverse number of roles within finance, I think, is key. It's not just sitting dealing with numbers.
Yeah, I think it's yes, but I agree completely, and it's certainly something that's on our agenda. And working with our skills group and with Peter's skills group, I mean the diversity of opportunity within financial services. I think we're almost, you could say, we're almost a victim of our own success, really, because there's so many training programs and internationally recognised qualifications that we can encourage staff to train with and develop on the island. When people do spread their wings and move around, I mean that is the kind of area which is the sweet spot, I think, for us, and has been for a long time. Is that experienced position? Somebody who's been probably in post for 4, 5, 6 years. And those are the kind of people we want to attract to the island in the short term to help fill those vacancies.
Okay. Michael, on one of the slides earlier, you mentioned about financial services and professional services being about 48% of GDP. One of the questions we've got here is, do you think the island is overly focused on finance and gaming? Or do we accept that that's a key spot for us, or should we look to diversify more? Couple of questions in there.
Okay. Well, representing financial and professional services, I think it's great that we've got half the economy. I think one I think if you compare the Isle of Man to similar sized jurisdictions, I think we do have a lot of diversity. We do both across the economy, but also possibly, I can't speak for gaming, but certainly speaking for financial services, certainly unlike our near neighbours, we're not particularly overweight in any one or dependent on any one. We referenced earlier 22% of GDP comes from insurance, and there's roughly 2,000 people in insurance. There's also 2,000 people in banking and a lot of taxation in banking. There's nearly 3,000 people in professional services on the island. So we do have probably quite a healthy mix within the financial services community. In terms of diversity outside that, I think that there are always programs and schemes and support mechanisms on behalf of the government to perhaps stimulate some other areas of industry. And I know, for example, at the moment people are looking very seriously at things like medicinal cannabis. The gaming industry is growing. Manufacturing, post-COVID, has had a bit of has had a difficult time, but I think they're growing again. So I think we do have diversity. I mean, the fact of life is, as an offshore centre, financial services is the cornerstone of our economy. And certainly when we looked at the economic strategy within government last year, the year before last now, that was certainly acknowledged that will continue for the foreseeable future, that financial services is going to be the largest sector.
Could I? You don't mind if I answer this one?
No, sorry.
I think there is one thing I would just pick up on, and if we look at the apprenticeship schemes on the island at the moment, 80% of those go into trades, and things like building and electrical, heating, all this sort of thing. Now, if we look at what you've just said about the GDP, that doesn't seem a good balance to me. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think the first reason is a lot of the education that you do in your companies, you do it internally. So you have your own tools, you'll use your own qualifications, you'll use some excellent bodies from the UK where, we'll be aligned with those and we'll use their recognised qualifications. But I do think we need to move the dial a little bit on that. That doesn't seem right to me. And, particularly given the massive contribution to the economy that, finance has, and it goes across the other sectors, that needs to be addressed. So that would be my only comment.
Okay, I am going to raise this question because it is something that we hear quite often in our ministers' meetings and various other things as well. It's about the processing of visas and the obstacles that are with regarding attracting international skills. What can be done to assist with that, alleviate with that? I know Michael has got an opinion on this. Sorry.
Michael has an opinion on most things. Yeah. We spend a fair bit of time, and I know colleagues in Locate spend a lot of time supporting businesses when they're looking to recruit, particularly from outside the British Isles. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, the immigration process it does take time. It takes more time than you would. Well, those of you, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, but it takes a long time to bring somebody in from outside the British Isles. I'm sure things could be done better. I know there's work within government to re-examine process and priorities and resourcing around that. I am also aware, although I'm not particularly close to, that a lot of the challenges we have with immigration, because a fair amount of that is processed in the UK. So there are changes coming in terms of how that is going to be processed, and it's going to be a more digitalised system. It's quite manual at the moment. So there are changes there, and when we certainly support businesses when they do look off Ireland. It is, I mean, I think there's one of the sad facts, and maybe, I don't know if you have a view on this, I think one of the challenges we have is that the immigration process can be very problematic, and it's a disincentive for people to look really beyond the British Isles. I think it would be fair to say, and it certainly is on. I know it's on Pete's agenda for the Skills Board. But from an industry perspective, do you have a view, Rob or Jill?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that's very loud. The time it takes and the effort that goes into it is a disincentive to bringing people internationally to the Isle of Man, which isn't helpful. And obviously with having a skills gap is sometimes in the HR department as well, that makes it even more difficult. So yeah, anything that could be done to make it more straightforward, but we have got the strategy to increase the population of the Isle of Man and the economically active population as well, would be very well received, most definitely.
Okay. I'm conscious of time, but we have got a few moments. Would you mind if we opened up some questions to the floor, just in case anybody's not got Slido or not got their phone with them? Is there any other questions anybody would like to pose? We've got some roving mics down here, or want to ask the team, or I'm sure Ian will be happy to answer some questions as well, and our other panellists. Sinead?
Yeah, thought my voice was always loud enough. Okay, just a question about compliance, because there is a skill gap around compliance, and attracting young people into the profession. We need to do that. We need to make compliance, I think, to use Ian's phrase, sexy. I know. But one of the issues that I commonly come across is how pigeonholed compliance people can become. So senior people work their way up in a specific sector, and then they want to take a role in a different sector. And quite often that faces challenge within the fitness and properness regime. So it's not really a question, it's more a call for Peter and the Skills Board and the FSA to start looking at that particular issue. Attracting people, let's say the TCSP sector in the UK, for example, it's not regulated in the UK. So if you're trying to bring somebody into the Isle of Man, into a TCSP, into a senior role, and we have a challenge around, well, they're not experienced in that particular sector, that's a real switch off. And somebody mentioned it recently in the slides this morning, a sort of throwaway comment about salaries. Salary inflation in the compliance industry is unbelievable, and we're causing that. We're causing that by not allowing people to switch across sectors and bring their experience. If compliance is compliance, if you're good at it, you're good at it. So let's be creative and think about how we can get the compliance professionals who want to cross into a different sector to enable them to do that, please.
Okay. Jill, you can...
Just really to pick up on that, Sinead, I don't think it's just compliance. I think if we're all looking for non-executive directors, it's a similar problem where the fitness and properness assessment says you have to have experience in that industry. That makes it quite hard to go beyond the kind of people you're normally, so we're just keeping the same bank of people circulating around. So I think that would be maybe one for the FSA to think about, Ian.
Got that, thank you.
Challenge there, and it's a good point, well made, Sinead. I mean, from I suppose at the more junior end, I mean, I think Ian and I would reflect that UCM, we were like pushing on an open door with UCM in terms of changing the business administration syllabus. So that's now, I think, a third of it is an accredited compliance certificate, a qualification. You're right. I mean, compliance is a challenge. Two of our case studies in the videos were compliance-based, so that's one of the themes of the recruitment campaign. We need to do all we can to support new entrants to that market, but also, as you say, to support the cross-sectoral aspect of not just that, but other roles as well, where we have strong skills which are transferable.
Okay, just one last point.
I think it's a really good point. I mean, compliance, and the other area is IT. The sort of all the new skills that are needed there. Personally, my experience on the island is that the people here are far more knowledgeable in terms of compliance than the centres that I used to run, say, in the UK. And I'd have a lot more people available in the UK, running sort of estates with 3,000, 4,000 people working in them, and, huge numbers of compliant people. But here, because you have to stretch thinner, your knowledge is far better. And I've always believed that there should be a centre of excellence set up in the Isle of Man. If you think about the issues with cross-border, you know, the complexities of managing cross-jurisdictional with things like AML and everything else, the knowledge is far higher. So we should monopolise that. And, you know, certainly from a skills point of view, I would love to see something set up as a centre of excellence on the island, but you know that's something for the board that I'm just trying to move through at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Unless there's any other, one.
Yeah, sorry. What I'd like to know is there any action done to utilise the knowledge that we've actually got on the island rather than looking off island? I was actually speaking to someone who's a qualified chartered secretary the other day, and she was told to go to the portal, the locate portal, to actually look for a job on the island, which is bonkers. And we've got loads of consultants, we've got loads of expertise here that it's just matching up the expertise with the jobs, and I think we're missing that opportunity.
I mean, it's a massive opportunity in two respects. Firstly, do we have good succession plans? So when we bring somebody over, if we have to do that because there isn't anybody here, do we then use them to transfer those skills? That is absolutely critical. And it's interesting to me that if we look at a lot of the big roles that have gone into, say, government recently, we've had to bring people over to do those. Now, okay, there's a perfect opportunity to start to look at that succession planning. The other part, though, is the piece I talked about around lifelong learning. Not only maybe people that want to move across different sectors, but maybe people that want to come back to work, you know, that have those skills. And I'm like you, I've never ceased to be amazed when you listen to the radio during the day. Someone will come on and say, oh yeah, I used to be a scientist and I actually know quite a lot about this, more than the person that's actually on, you know, on the radio. So there is a wealth of talent and we need to tap into it. So absolutely, the one-stop shop again that I talked about, we'll try and highlight that and bring that together so that people can see exactly where those gaps are and where they could actually come back. So that is a really important point.
I happen to, and I've got the phone number of the airport director, so if you ever feel like being an air traffic controller again, I can help you with that.
There is a question about air traffic control, and I'm not going to even go near there, right, and flights. Okay, one last question, Laura.
Thank you. There's been a lot of really great discussion around attracting talent to the island, but I just want to ask what kind of tangible actions are being taken around retention and keeping people. I think the problem that we see a lot is not getting people here, but keeping them here, whether that's, I think, Peter, you alluded to housing issues, if that particularly people in the rental market, amenities, hospitality, retail, compared to competitor jurisdictions.
Yeah, I think that starts again with students. So, you know, I mentioned before about students going off island. I see that as a retention exercise as well because, you know, we get them all sort of schooled up and really great, and then they go and join PwC in London, or you know, they go somewhere else. So that to me is the first point where we need to do more about retention. And you know, within the skills board, that's one of our deliverables, to look at that and say, what can we do to increase retention? With people that are already on the island, okay, that's slightly different in that if there are areas that they can go into that they're interested in and they see longevity on the island in terms of their careers, that's really important. And rather than saying, you know, this job today, it's, you know, if you're in finance, do you see longevity in finance? And the only way that we're genuinely going to try and keep people is if there is that longevity. And that comes back a little bit to me in the succession planning, because, you know, so many companies bring people in onto the island when I believe they actually have people here already that could do that role. And that really disappoints me. But when we do that, are we transferring those skills over and actually, you know, giving that person the ambition to do that role that might be higher up if that's what they want to do? I think the third thing on this that I would just say is the government are concerned about this as well. And we've got 3 ministers that are sat on the skills board, and they actually said, we want to build in to the strategy what are we going to do around the mechanisms to look at how do we retain the right people? I'll give you an example. The health service at the moment is really difficult. If you look at, for example, the number of doctors on the island, you know, we've got some real issues there. And it's a very complex piece to address because, you know, doctors can be worked very hard on the island. You'd think not, but actually the numbers are down. You know, I know doctors that are working really ridiculous hours and they look at it and go, well, actually, do I really want to do this? So there's a whole piece that we need to do. So it is being looked at. It will be built into the strategy. I don't know what the answers are. That's what I would say to you. And I think that's back to the point we had before, which is we're there to try and, you know, make things transparent and then look to where it's going to get answered rather than us trying to do it, because we don't know. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, just to bring today to a conclusion, a huge thank you to all our contributors from the audience, our panellists, the organisers, facilitators. Thank you very much for doing that. It was really appreciated. Some key messages from me that are coming through from today. The biggest one, and it's come through in all the various different presentations that we've had, the conversations that we're having, is making sure we are collaborating. We're working together. Private sector and public sector are pulling together. They're sharing knowledge, information, skills, ability, input, etc. And if we don't do that, we will go down the silo route again, as you've mentioned earlier. So it's really important that we do that. Dina's kindly confirmed that she will circulate around the contact details for the various different departments, etc., so that you can give feedback, you can participate, you can be aware of what's going on and what's out there. And you, as an employer, a citizen of the Isle of Man that wants us to continue to prosper and grow as an international financial services centre and stay safe, to contribute. We can't wait for somebody else to do it for us. We all have to be part of this journey. So again, huge thank you for everybody, but it's just the start again of some of this. Thank you.